It's my pleasure to present Chris Halls and Rene Engelhard, who will be talking about OpenOffice.org in Debian.
Okay, thank you. Hi, it's nice to see so many people. We wondered who would come along. I mean, OpenOffice is very popular among users, but at a conference like this, there's not so many people that are interested. This is the Debian OpenOffice team. None of these people work full-time on OpenOffice. Well, Rene does a little bit in his day job. I work a little bit in my day job, but mostly we do stuff in our spare time. So these two people are the people who process all of the bug reports and the packages, make the packages and so on. And I don't know how many of you have tried to build OpenOffice. 3, 4, 5, okay. Did anyone actually succeed? Oh, well done. So, yeah, and how long did it take you?
I don't remember. No, I think it was overnight.
Overnight, okay. But yeah, just packaging is a big job, and then as Debian maintainers, we're also expected to coordinate with upstream, who are about 60 developers, and also not really into the same type of free software as we are. Most of them being at Sun, they just have a different view of the world. It's like if you go up to a Windows user and ask him some question, why don't you script something in like? And it's the same thing if we ask them, well, why are you writing this in Java? And they're just like, well, Java's quicker, and what's the problem? It's free. And so we've got quite a lot to do. Yeah. So we've got quite a lot to do, and I do actually wonder sometimes whether the maintainer field should be Debian OpenOffice team, because we often get mails like, could the team do this, and maybe the team would like to look at this, and we're like, we don't have time. We're just trying to keep the packages up to date. Just keeping them up to date is a big job. So at the moment, current status bugs 321 outstanding, and this is climbing the whole time. Okay, so that's the bad side of our job. Let's tell you a little bit about OpenOffice 2. Everyone's probably wondering, when's it coming out? Well, so are we. OpenOffice 2, well, it was originally supposed to be out in March, April this year, and it's been put back for various reasons. There was supposed to be one beta, and well, it was really more like an alpha, and so there's talk of another beta coming out, and well, there's no release date yet. But this is a time when you can actually test OpenOffice 2 and find out what problems there are before it actually goes stable. Rene's been doing most of the packaging over the last few months, and Matthias as well. Matthias is Ubuntu maintainer, and he's helped us quite a lot with OpenOffice. Where are we? So we've got packages in experimental, but not in unstable, because the FTP masters aren't so keen on us having 2 versions of OpenOffice in unstable, because it's quite big, in case anybody hadn't noticed.
Mainly because of the sheer size. The actual up-to-date version in experimental is source and steps 400 megabytes. One upload. So I guess it's understandable why they don't want 2 packages of them. And then the auto builders.
Yeah, it grows with every version. Keep adding more and more stuff. It's another difference in mindset. These guys work regularly with Solaris and with Windows, and you don't have all of the nice package libraries together. So what do you do to make it easier for developers? You lump everything together. And like, there's loads of Debian developers go to me, why on earth is there, what's the biggest things? Was there a glib in there at one point? There was at some point, but just big libraries. We do actually patch them out in the packaging. That's one thing that Rene and I have been doing.
As long as it's possible, it's done. There is some libraries that are heavily patched inside the tree. ICU is megabytes and we can't split it out because it's so heavily patched. If the ICU maintainer wants to apply this patch to the old version, maybe, but it's not happened yet. And upstream wants to resolve that problem, but for a later version.
Yeah, upstream we've got a lot to do as well. Sun have got different priorities to us, so they're putting in new features which may or not be interesting for us. New database component is pretty good, apart from the fact that it is Java. They are putting more and more Java into OpenOffice, as you've probably realised. Thankfully, GCJ is getting better and better, and now with version 2 of OpenOffice and version 4 of GCJ, we can actually compile OpenOffice with GCJ. Unfortunately, that makes it start up even slower, but we're hoping to be able to use the shared library, SO building of GCJ to actually pre-compile stuff. But there's some problems with the current version, so we'll have to see whether we can get that in and working. But yeah, that's been sort of a lot of hot discussion. There's Richard Stallman, for example, has actually been mailing regularly on the JPK list at Upstream, trying to sort this out. So at least people have been taking an interest there, and that's moving forward. As far as the packaging itself goes, we have just been doing version 2 recently. There's a lot of bugs still to go, and one of the things that we've done is we've started moving over to use Alias to actually make it easier for people who aren't Debian developers to get involved. A year ago, at the last DebConf, I stood here and talked to people about how to help with triaging bugs. We did get some help, but it's gone back to being just Rene and myself, really. Although OpenOffice itself is a big package and you use a lot of hardware to build it, there are still a lot of things that would help us. All of these bugs here, we try to work on the very serious severity ones, but if you go down to the normal severity, there are just pages and pages of reports by OpenOffice users, and generally OpenOffice users on average aren't used to writing bug reports as much as you might be for a more sophisticated development type of package. So we get really basic reports, and you have to spend time with every single one of these, going back and forth with the user to work out what exactly is the problem and how to reproduce it. Just somebody who could help us with that, for example, just looking at some bugs, that would help us get the count down. There's a lot of really low-hanging fruit in these, stuff that can be
Some of them may even not apply anymore.
Yeah.
There is some bugs reported against 110 or even 103. I am fairly sure some of them don't apply anymore. But to check that is partly time consuming, and the packaging has to go on, and so it's not so easy to find out whether to close the bugs. Sometimes even the submitters don't answer anymore. So
just somebody going through and working out which submitters have timed out would help. I mean, look at this one, version 110. There's quite a big chance that's been fixed already. Yeah, so this BOF is actually a recruiting BOF. No, not really. Do you have any questions about what we've talked about so far? Are there any of you who have some time and would like to help us improve the OpenOffice packages? Ah, great. Wonder how many of you actually use the OpenOffice packages? That's well, two in a room full is a lot higher than you'd normally expect. I mean, we do have millions of users, and most people don't really help us, and they also are under the impression that there are loads of people beavering away at Debian to make these OpenOffice packages. Does anybody have any suggestions about how we can actually get this message across better? Has anybody looked at the packaging, the project, the documentation?
Well, I was wondering about this specific thing, dictionaries. There was a thing I did some packaging for, not in Debian, but I did the Debian packages for it, which was a fairly easy dictionary installer for OpenOffice, which would install it either into user or into the home folder. And now the dictionaries sort of trickle in via normal Debian packages, and that tool actually has a lot more dictionaries available than the Debian packages, and plus I suppose it would be easier to just package that instead of packaging every single dictionary. How would one go about suggesting such a thing? Because obviously nobody wants to piss people off and suggesting to remove all the dictionary packages and installing that thing. How would one go about suggesting this in a reasonable manner?
Talking about the actual technical issues and trying to establish why we've actually got the situation that we have, and I can explain it to you a bit. The original upstream didn't have any installer at all. The MySQL dictionaries do predate that. The advantage of having dictionaries as packages means that it's totally integrated with the rest of the system, but as you say, it doesn't scale. We don't have time to look after every language, and really we would prefer somebody to look after their language. Since we had my iSpell and ASpell dictionaries, it seemed reasonable enough to say, here's the framework, go off and make your dictionaries, but as you say, they're not all done. Now, if you've got a... Sorry, Andrew?
Just about the dictionaries, something that would make it easier to package individual languages would be if there was a framework which was just a single dictionary. The source package for dictionaries is a whole lot of dictionaries. And it creates individual Debian packages, which is fine if you've only got one maintainer, but if you've got one maintainer per language, it becomes difficult. I like being able to install a language support through apt-get.
The point is that MySQL dictionaries can easily be built on top from the iSpell dictionaries. So what the most packages in Debian do is not to take the zips from the upstream side. They convert the iSpell dictionaries into MySQL dictionaries. And so the maintainers are of course different because it comes from the normal iSpell source package.
Am I right in thinking you were asking, is there like a template for a single dictionary? Yes, and it's about, we've had it for about 3 years, and it's in the CBS. But as Rene says, you can also build them from iSpell dictionaries.
If you build from the zip files you can get, there's the template. You can use the template, or you can use any other MySQL dictionary which is not built from an iSpell source package.
But can we actually look at the idea of a central installer? The main drawback of it is that you don't have it integrated with your package database. How have you gone about solving that? What do you do?
If I remember correctly, it was some time ago that we did that. If I remember correctly, you could give it sort of preceded. So I suppose you could, on installing that package, you could let it choose by that point or whatever of a set of pre-seeds tied into the locale, whatever language you use on your system, and then it would obviously on first run automatically fetch those. It's a little hackish, I suppose, but might be easier as a person maintaining all the packages.
Okay, so it's something which you're downloading a bit like MSTT core fonts or something,
Yeah,
is
in a
it?
way it is, yeah. Although the dictionaries are GFSG free, I think.
Okay. And when you actually had that as a packaged?
Yeah, I packaged that one, some version of it, but I did not upload it all. Because obviously the framework was already there, you had your packages in it, and I was wondering if you only, because I was also under the misconception that there was an OpenOffice team working on it, and it might be a first step to alleviate some of your work.
Mm.
I don't think, well, either way, on my system, there was no.
Yeah, that's a good question. Matthias asked, does it conflict with MySpell packages? What do you do with the dictionary list?
Well, again, like it was some time ago. I'd have to look into that again. But from what I remember, even running it as root, I had to adapt some paths because it was written for Red Hat systems or whatever. But I don't think I got any conflicts. Again, I'll have a
Yeah. What I meant, there's a single dictionary.list file, and you need to maintain that file. Are you generating it automatically?
No, it comes with Upstream. It's a
Upstream don't do it. That's the problem. That's one of the things that we sorted with the MySpell packaging.
There is a policy for that in place in the dictionaries common package, which says the policy for iSpell, and so on packages. And in Debian, you just provide an info file for a script, where you write in that info file what this dictionary entry should contain. And every post end of the packages should call a script, update OpenOffice tickets. And this script regenerates the dictionary list from scratch, preserving the eventual modifications, but creating it from scratch so that every package installation has the new stuff registered.
Yes, so we're certainly open to it, and
well, I'll have a look over it again.
okay, great. Have a look at how the MySpell dictionaries work with the updating the dictionary list, and yes, why not? Does anybody think of a reason why we shouldn't do that?
Given that it does work and isn't too hard to adapt.
Yeah. I suppose you're changing the user interface to how you install your dictionaries. It's a DebConf interface though, is it?
No, it's a GTK interface.
Okay.
But you can do non-interactive installs.
I'm not sure about
Sorry,
that.
Matthias?
Our non-interactive installs also as well.
Okay, non-interactive. Via command line somehow.
Not sure about that.
Not sure.
I don't, from memory, I don't think so.
Okay. But yes, please look at it. It's something that I've been thinking about on and off, this sort of data type of package, where you've got masses and masses of different files per language or whatever, and it does end up not scaling perfectly when you're integrated into the package database. As you say, when there's more people making these dictionaries than the package maintainers can keep up with, and where it's something regular like that, then yes, maybe we can find a better way of doing it.
Did somebody look at replacing MySpell with aspell?
Did somebody look at replacing MySpell with aspell? Yeah, now, the reason why aspell could not be used on all platforms is because it doesn't exist on Windows, I would guess. I'm not sure, but it was a platform and compatibility problem, and efficiency as well, if I remember right. There were some technical reasons for not being able to use aspell everywhere that you could use OpenOffice. I do remember there was an older implementation that used to use aspell, but that was unmaintained. I don't think there's any real technical issues with using a spell, but it would need somebody to maintain it. So it's just lack of manpower. A spell wasn't a solution for all platforms. I think that's how it went. Do you know any more?
No. That's almost everything. The licenses are compatible, so if anyone wants to write a plugin for a spell, it's no problem. But the upstream won't do it, and we don't have time anyway, so anyone can do it using the RP.
Just wondering if it's still. Just let that run. I don't think it's no. No, there used to be an old implementation, but I guess it got removed. Okay. Any more? Right. What was I talking about? GCC 4. Thanks to Matthias's work, we've got a lot closer to being able to use GCC 4. Rene said it builds on i386, but not on other architectures yet. Is that right?
It earlier versions built on PowerPC 2, but somehow the registration of the components in the Office installation does fail now. I haven't yet looked why, because I need to get packaging more finished. I hope with the newest GCC it goes away. If not, I will have to look.
Okay.
On other platforms, it's more tricky. Spark didn't build at all. Even the 108, which did work on PowerPC and i3086. S390, well, didn't build at all. And AIM64 is the history for itself.
Okay, we'll come on to 64 a bit later. I forgot to put that in the list actually. Okay, so why do we need GCC 4? The reason is that it has this symbol visibility feature. And why do we need that? Because by turning this on and hiding symbols from shared libraries, you end up with smaller binaries and you end up with a lot faster startup performance. Over 60% I've heard quoted. I haven't actually tested it. Rene says that it feels fast when it starts.
It subjectively is faster, yes, but I haven't measured it either.
Yeah, so that for us is something that's quite important to do. I mean, packaging takes higher priority, but as soon as we can actually use that, it will make it a lot faster, easier, quicker to start up. So, yeah.
Doesn't 3.4 have also visibility feature?
Does 3.4 have the visibility feature? No. There is a patch which is available for it, but it's not in the Debian GCC. Now, Red Hat and SUSE, I think, and maybe others actually applied that and have been building OpenOffice with GCC 3.4, but we haven't been doing that. Had 4 not been around the corner, then we might have thought about it.
Sun, as they release the official install sets, do that too. They use an own GCC also.
Sun use their
they
own
patch
tool chain
their
to build
GCC with the feature and then build with that visibility.
Yeah. Actually, at one point, I don't know if they still are, Novell was building an internal GCC just to build OpenOffice as part of their packaging.
So does this mean that a backport to Sarge is going to be impossible or just difficult?
Backport of which?
Of OpenOffice or to
Sarge.
To Sarge. I just tried.
It will become difficult. Well,
because of GCC.
Yeah.
Well, with those features, yes, it will be difficult. I mean,
you can build it with C4, but then you don't have the visibility feature. The main problem with backporting is ECJ, because if I want the users to have have a free Java environment, I would need to backport GCC4 to such because of GCJ4.
Yeah, so it ends up
I
being a
don't
bit
want
weird.
that. Sorry.
What we did for our Woody backports, which was another job that we've been doing, was to actually turn off features that weren't available. So, for example, I think the font config support was turned off, wasn't it? Things like that. So actually going back to be a more vanilla version of the packages. By doing that, we can actually get something that runs on an older one. So that's probably the way that we'll have to go with Sarge. And if people want faster startup, they'll have to upgrade to Etch.
Do you at any point plan to do a Sarge backport? A Sarge backport yourselves?
Well, I haven't got one at the moment. It'll just be as we have time. I have, for the company I work for, we maintain some older systems, and occasionally I'm asked to do backports for them, at which point I also check them in, and then if it's not too much extra work, I'll then release them outside. But yeah, at the moment we don't really have enough time to maintain proper backports, just every now and again.
Just as a notice, it would require about backporting GCC Debian build, require about 30 Java packages to be backported. And so
So you end up doing half of Fetch anyway, just to...
So 30 Java packages would have to be backported for that. That is.
So we
There
need
is
to get
some-
Etch out quickly, that's the real answer.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be better if we could get Etch out quickly.
Newly in the package relationships, there are some Java libraries in the depends. I would need to backport those too. I would need how to get them built on a Sarge system. I would need to backport GCC field 4 for the Java stuff. On the other hand, you could disable the Java stuff, but then you have very interesting bugs in the Office suite. So it's not really that a good idea in an emergency, yes, but I would not like to do it because a save as dialog who pops up every time you click you press enter is not that funny.
On that Java issue, a question. Do you, I mean, if I notice correctly, basically at Sun there is a tendency right now to put an awful lot more of Java than before into OpenOffice, and do you fear that it might reach a point where it will no longer be possible to build anything useful for Debian because we don't have Sun's own GVM ported?
No, because, sorry, I should repeat the question. Do we feel that there might be a point when the OpenOffice packages are not really usable because there's so much Java stuff going in there? I don't think so, because we have enough influence to be able to say, stop your, this is going in the wrong direction. It takes time to swing some, but the distributors, we do work together and have not insignificant voice. And also the idea was that Sun would only start adding essential Java features once the free JDKs were ready to go. There isn't anybody who's saying we don't care about free JDKs. It's more a case of the developers who are implementing the features don't realize the issues because they just use their own Sun, and there are a lot of them, and it's very difficult to keep up with them implementing all of the new features. And also there is this expectation that the free JDKs will get better. We did have an agreement with them that they wouldn't implement stuff that depended on new versions of JDKs, and that does hold. There are some features that need 1.4 JDK, but internally they're on 1.5 already, but they've agreed not to use features, and also they have committed to actually replacing features that use proprietary Sun classes. They have done that to a certain extent. Again, it takes a long time, but they are working with us. They've also spent quite a lot of time in re-implementing the JDK loader, this JVM framework that actually makes it much easier to load a free JDK, well, a different JDK.
Such as JCG, for instance?
Yes.
Okay.
Such as JCG, yeah. Okay, should we talk about 64-bit? Well, this is a project number, what was it? 284 in our list to actually implement 64-bit. And do you have a 64-bit machine now? No, nor do I. So it's one thing that we've not actually, it's not an itch that we've personally had to scratch yet.
It's an ongoing effort at Sun since years. They have at least 2 CVS branches for this now. Where
Two
the
CVS branches.
CVS branches. Where the last one is still open and not yet finished. And Sun apparently doesn't do much work anymore, at least I don't see one. But some people from the community do now. And there is some slow but steady progress. At the moment, rumors say it should build, it should start, but it should not be able to open documents. But at least in the progress, it starts and builds.
I should give you some background to this. OpenOffice started off as StyleOffice, and it was originally 16-bit. There's a lot of legacy code, and there are a lot of base classes that are used that make assumptions that you're not expecting to see 64-bit environments. So it's a case of going through all of the code and making sure that things work. You've got conversions from pointers to 32-bit integers, for example, and back again. And it's pretty fundamental. You have to go through and make sweeping changes to types all across the code base, and because it's so big, you've got a good chance of breaking stuff. So there are a lot of people that want to do it, and there are people who've been working on it for literally months already. It's just the code base is very big and it doesn't all come quickly. Yeah.
How big, just to get a feeling of that?
The code base. 8 million lines of code. I think 1.1's 7 or 6. It's big. 1.0 used to be 70,000 source files, and there's more now. My laptop here is a Pentium 3 600 megahertz, and it takes it over a day nowadays to build OpenOffice on this. What does the ARM build daemon take?
For 1.1x, 7 days.
That's actually one thing that we could improve a lot, is to split things up a bit and not have to build it as one big chunk. The problem is that the current system works really well for the people at Sun, because they all sit on the same network, and they have an engineering department that set up servers. They've got NFS mounts with all of the source code. They don't even have to compile it themselves. It will compile in a really modular way. If you actually look at the build scripts, you can treat each project separately. It's just that they like to distribute the source as one big block. 10 minutes.
Wouldn't it be appropriate then for either the Debian project or some other open source player or distribution to basically ask IBM and one of the Intel compatible manufacturer to basically loan us an SSH connection to a faster machine, like a 1 or 2 megahertz machine, for both of the main architectures as a build host?
If we had hardware sponsoring.
Yes.
The problem with a remote machine is that you can't actually hack on the code so quick. And as I was saying, you can actually do incremental builds. The build system is very sophisticated, and you don't have to build a lot to do incremental stuff. If you're actually working on the code, you don't need to do a lot of building at all. We've even got scripts that will link your active build tree into your system install, so that if you're, working on a slower machine, okay, you'll have to wait for the few source files that you've modified to compile, but these will then be linked together into a shared library pretty quickly without having recompiled the rest of it, and you can actually get working OpenOffice working. So it's really the speed of the machine that you're working at that's more important than the speed of the building. I mean, at Debian we have the build infrastructure.
Yeah.
Once we're ready, we can upload it somewhere and it can go. What has been done is the tinderboxes, for example, to actually repeatedly build stuff. Novell, for example, have sponsored machines. So, but if you think that's a good idea, we'd certainly appreciate more help with hardware. So please help us do that. But we just don't have time to go and do political stuff as well as the packaging.
Because one example that comes to mind that might be useful that happened recently is when the Mac Mini came out, a bunch of PowerPC enthusiasts basically paid one to Benjamin Herrenschmidt, the main kernel coder for PPC. Of course, now we're talking about a fairly affordable piece of hardware, about 500 euros. But basically I'm thinking that what if company basically sent you, let's say for 6 months, some 64-bit hardware, just to make sure that you get the part up to the perfection, and then at that point we can resume using only the Debian build D system.
Yeah, actually, personal hardware, as you're suggesting, actually getting a machine sent, that would help us. We've got one bug in here. Anybody who's got a PowerPC machine will probably know this one. We've had, this is our oldest important bug, the top one here, and several duplicates, that it crashes. It's really easy to reproduce if you try to load the bibliography, but until recently neither of us have a PowerPC machine. Rene's now got one, but he's established.
I just tested with a milestone and it didn't crash anymore, and oh, lucky, okay, fixed.
Yeah,
but
fixed version 2 now.
the problem was I have this laptop since 2 months or so, and before that I wasn't able to test it in any way. So
yeah, that's maybe an idea for our machines. Yeah. Did I get through my list? Added project, did I mention that? Just that we've been moving stuff over to there to make it easier for people who want to get involved to actually do something. One thing that we could do with, is there anybody here who'd be interested in having a trawl through our website? It's very out of date nowadays. Oops. It doesn't exist. There's the latest news. February 2005. Oh, well done. Okay, I haven't done a news item for a long
still a bit
time.
old.
But just somebody who's interested in the status.
For example, the two old statuses is mentioned nowhere.
Yeah, that's true, version 2, yeah. Just somebody who's interested in following along a little bit and keeping up to date with what's going on, and maybe saying on IRC, what do you think 2.0 status is or something, and then just actually writing it up on the website, for example. That would be a big help. We don't really get a lot of constructive help on the mailing list. It's usually bug reports or complaints that the team haven't done this and that. But we really are open, and we would like help. Go on.
It would help if the first paragraph of this webpage would say that the team is 2 people, because it implies that, well, some people are working to get OpenOffice running in Linux Alpha, blah, 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 blah. It implies really a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, website implies a lot of people.
That sentence is mainly referred to people who did the architecture port upstream. But you, of course, are right. We have more or less the same problem as with Debian or security team. Where it's also written that's a big team, but it isn't. So.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it in the hackler.
But I can edit, yeah.
Okay.
I'm volunteering.
Great, thank you. Anybody else volunteering? Yeah? Great. That's good. We've had quite a few questions from Martin, isn't it? Q Frank is, I know you, on IRC. So yeah, that'd be great. We are we have our own channel and we'll sit there and answer questions when we look. So please come and join us. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.